There's only one active. Is this the only one that's active?
No. So the two are for the room, and then the one's for the live stream.
Oh, one's for the live stream.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Morning. We're going to get started, and Tin is going to go ahead and kick us off, our elected DA, Tin Ho.
Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me? All right, is it working? All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Well, first of all, welcome to the 27th Annual Outstanding Citizen Award. This is an event that we've held every year, and it holds a special place in our heart because it recognizes people who've gone above and beyond in terms of helping victims and survivors in our justice system. Now, before I go on further, I do want to talk a little bit about some of our victim advocates who are here. You know, our victim advocates over the years have been amazing partners. They are dedicated to serving our victims and helping us, from everything with crisis intervention, providing services, providing resources and community referrals. And today we are going to honor a very special victim advocate and friend, Michelle Husbands. And we will do so and recognize her at the end of the event. But in the process, I also want to recognize and talk about some of the things that our office does. For example, we have behind us, you'll see a number of different quotes here that we have. These quotes are displayed throughout our office and here as well. And we have great partners, whether it's with the quotes, whether it's in the community. And some of the partners that we have in the communities, for example, are the Voices to Victim Coalition that we have that continues to advocate with victims. We also work with Weave, My Sister's House, along with the Family Justice Center to really support victims. But more than that, we also have here as well a lot of several elected officials and community leaders. And I'm going to go in alphabetical order. And that way is the simplest way to do it. So I do want to recognize some of our community partners. Samantha Beck, the Executive Director of the Carmichael Improvement District. Sean DeRee, who's the Commissioner of the California Highway Patrol. Garrett Gatewood, who is the Mayor of Rancho Cordova. Glinda Gill, he's the President of the Gadar Memorial Association. We have Arla Grafe, President of the Sacramento Criminal Justice Employees Union. Eric Jones, who is a partner with us. He is the Deputy County Executive over Sacramento County Public Safety and Justice. Lisa Kaplan is a council member in District 1 in Sacramento. We have Bill Noten, the Executive Director of the Mac Road Partnership. Chief Madison from Sac State. I think I saw him walk in a moment ago. We have Christine Nguyen, who's the Executive Director of My Sister's House, a great partnership in helping us with domestic violence victim. Deborah Richardson, the Executive Director of A Positive Force, LDC. Daryl Smith, Acting Executive Director of the Law Enforcement Chaplaincy, helps us in the most difficult times. We have Rosa Vega, who is the coroner for our county. Brian Whitmire, who's the city manager with Folsom. So I want to take us back here to the Outstanding Citizen Award. And I think we just had the Undersheriff, Mike Ziegler, walk in as well. Thank you for being here. The Outstanding Citizen Award and the event that we have here today recognizes, as I had mentioned a moment ago, those that go above and beyond. And we have several different awards today that we're giving out. And I want to start first with the Beacon of Hope Award. This award we're going to start with is a special award because it recognizes individuals and organizations who, through their compassion and dedication, have enhanced victim advocacy. And this year, we're going to award it to somebody very special who recently retired. And to present the award, I'd like to invite Deputy District Attorney Stephanie Maroon to hand the award.
Thank you. Thank you, Tin. Good morning, everybody. My name is Stephanie Maroon. I'm one of the prosecutors in the Human Trafficking Unit. I've had the privilege of working with Detective Jason Collins since 2024. And from the moment I met him, it was clear that his approach to police work was different. For him, this was never just a job or a paycheck. He poured himself into helping victims who were often so traumatized, so conditioned by years of exploitation, that they no longer recognize themselves as victims at all. Human trafficking is one of the most hidden and devastating offenses in our community. It occurs when a person is exploited for labor, sex, or services through force, fraud, or coercion. When someone's freedom is taken and their vulnerability is weaponized against them. It is not about movement, it's about control. It is the systematic breaking down of a human being until they believe they have no worth. Sacramento has been deeply impacted by this crime. A comprehensive research project found that between 2015 and 2020, 13,000 victims of sex trafficking passed through our region. Since then, all indications suggest that that number has only grown. This is a crime marked by violence, manipulation, and profound isolation. Victims often carry trauma that affects every aspect of their life. And yet, despite the enormity of this problem, there are individuals who step forward to confront it with courage, skill, and compassion. One of those individuals is Detective Jason Collins. In 1998, a very young Jason Collins joined the Sacramento Police Department with a simple but powerful goal: to make a difference. Over the years, he worked in a variety of assignments, and he quickly earned a reputation as someone you could always count on. Driven, reliable, and deeply committed. All the while, him and his wife Cassandra were raising their wonderful daughter Kendall. He balanced the demands of police work with the devotion of a family man. But in 2017, he found his true calling. He became cross-designated with the FBI and joined the Child Exploitation Task Force and the Sacramento Police Department's Human Trafficking Unit. Although he had encountered trafficking cases before, this was the moment he stepped fully into the work, and he did so with an extraordinary passion. He immersed himself in the complexities of human trafficking investigations. He became a fierce advocate for victims, approaching every case with empathy and determination. By 2019, he had gained such expertise in trauma-informed investigations and those techniques that he began teaching others. What started locally grew into something much larger. He has now trained more than 1,000 law enforcement professionals across the country. His dedication to exposing the hidden crime was so impactful that he even participated in an Emmy-winning documentary that brought national attention to the dangers these victims face. So you may be wondering, why does this matter for the Beacon of Hope Award? The answer is simple. Trauma-informed investigation is not just good police work. It's victim advocacy in its purest form. A trauma-informed approach recognizes the reality of what these victims have endured. It understands that fear, inconsistent statements and memories, or guarded behavior are not signs of unwillingness to cooperate, but they are symptoms of a victim's survival. This method replaces the outdated vice model of policing, where victims were often treated as offenders. Instead, it prioritizes dignity, safety, and healing. This is where Detective Collins has truly set the standard. His work reflects not only investigative excellence, but a profound commitment to seeing survivors as human beings first. For many victims, he was the first person who treated them with respect, the first person who believed them, the first person who saw their worth. Some of those survivors still reach out to him today. They share milestones like graduating from college, or marriage, or children, because he was the one who helped them believe they had a future. When I met Detective Collins in 2024, he immediately took it upon himself to teach me everything he knew about human trafficking, how to investigate these cases, how to prosecute them, and most importantly, how to care for the people at the center of them. And I immediately knew we were a great team for one very important reason. We're both diehard Dodger fans. And I don't want to say that our partnership has directly caused it, but the Dodgers have won the World Series every year since. You're welcome. But back to why we're here. Detective Collins always put victim safety first. I watch him spend sleepless nights at the police department, refusing to leave until a survivor had a safe place to go. I watched him begin every conversation with a victim by assuring them they were not in trouble, he was there to help, and their safety is what mattered. And every time, you could see the shift, the moment a person who had been treated as a commodity finally felt seen as a human being. That is who Detective Collins is, a protector, a partner, and a true beacon of hope.
Before Jason speaks, we may have to retract his award since he is a Dodgers fan. I just want to say that. The other thing is, I don't think Jason is, unlike most of us, I don't think Jason is barely aged at all since 1998. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to him. Congratulations.
Yeah, I was 12 in those photos. All right. That was an amazing intro. Thank you so much. Thank you to District Attorney Ho and the Sacramento District Attorney's Office for this honor. Stephanie, thank you very much for vouching for me. I was very surprised, and I'm extremely grateful. Thank you. Thank you for my team for being there with me along the way and carrying the torch after I've hung up my badge in retirement. And by the way, retirement is glorious, and I highly recommend it to everybody. I'm truly honored to receive the Beacon of Hope Award. The spirit of this award means so much to me because helping victims of human trafficking had become my passion, and I took a lot of pride in providing them with empathy, dignity, and respect that they deserve. Working in the human trafficking unit was my favorite assignment in 28 years. I got to work complex investigations, I got to work undercover, which was cool, and I got to help put really bad people into prison for a very long time. But having the opportunity to help victims of human trafficking was the most rewarding aspect. I believe victims of human trafficking are one of the most underserved populations of victims that we deal with because of the stigma that's involved in the work that they do. It isn't until you peel back the layers of the victim's vulnerabilities and their risk factors, which make them susceptible to the manipulation, coercion, control, threats, and violence from their exploiters, that you truly realize what a tormented existence that many victims live in. This is why I felt being victim-centered and trauma-informed was so vital in being able to try and meet the victim's needs and build a level of trust and rapport to let them know that I was truly there to help them if I could. I feel a little bit of imposter syndrome, though, because what I know about being victim-centered and trauma-informed, I learned from people who do amazing work and could have easily won this award themselves. Many of you are in here in this room today. But I'd like to recognize a few people who were there in the beginning that were so integral in shaping the way I operated. And like I said, many of you have had a deep impact on the way I operated, but I'm gonna go back to like day one. When I first started doing this work in 2017, I hardly knew anything about how human trafficking worked. My very first case was a 12-year-old, and at the time my daughter was 12, and that was a really eye-opening experience. In this particular case, I'd received a call from Kelly Hartman, who was a CPS social worker for this young lady. She told me that the kiddo was in custody at Macy's for shoplifting, but Kelly believed that there was something else going on, and she really believed that this young lady was being trafficked. So she asked me to come out and talk to her, and I was nervous because how do you talk to a 12-year-old about being trafficked? I had never done it before, and I wasn't sure how to approach it. But Kelly held my hand through the interview and helped me make a real connection with this young lady. And so I thank Kelly for showing me how to connect with youthful victims. Next, Courtney Martin. Where are you, Courtney? She was a tremendous prosecutor that I worked with for many years and was my partner in the fight against human trafficking for quite a bit of it. She used to call me her most social worky detective. But I wore that title with honor for the reasons I mentioned earlier about these victims being overlooked. Those risk factors, those vulnerabilities, the exploiter control often made it difficult to build rapport and trust. I learned quickly that I needed to be more than just the facts ma'am type of investigator. So I tapped into that social worky side that Courtney had talked about, which often led to successful interviews. And her and I always had conversations about what leads to a successful interview, and I'll be thankful for those conversations because I really credit that as for refining my skills. Next, I want to recognize Sawan Vaden and Terry Galvan with the survivor-led service provider Community Against Sexual Harm, or CASH for short. CASH has done amazing work providing services for survivors, helping them to exit the life of commercial sexual exploitation. And all of the ladies that I've worked with at CASH over the years are all fabulous, but I point to Sawan and Terry because they were there with me at the beginning. Terry was the director of CASH, and Sawan was a caseworker. They showed me how to look through the eyes of a victim and how to be empathetic of their plight. They taught me how to understand the fears and anxieties victims feel when they're dealing with law enforcement. They also taught me about the value of collaboration to ensure that the needs of the victim are being met. We had a wonderful working relationship, but what's even more wonderful now is that Sawan is now the director of CASH and is doing an amazing job. Lastly, I want to recognize my mentors when I first started doing this work, John Seidel and B. Lavroff. They showed me what it was to be an effective human trafficking investigator. At the time, B was an advocate at the DA's office and was so often my interview partner. She showed me the value of having an advocate in the interview room when sitting down with victims, because she provided that non-law enforcement touch and advocacy for victims in real time. We had developed a great shtick when sitting down with victims. For some reason, she believed that I had an unsophisticated palate and would clown on me for being like her 6-year-old for liking pizza and cheeseburgers, but who doesn't? B, on the other hand, always had some pretty wild-colored hairdos, so in turn, I would clown on her for looking like a My Little Pony. It definitely lightened the mood and allowed the victim to relax around us, but B always kept me centered in making sure that meeting the victim's needs was the most important thing. The cop stuff would come later. And finally, John Seidel. He was a human trafficking detective for the sheriff's office, and at that time, basically, he and I were the only two investigators for the entire county doing human trafficking investigations. He was the godfather of human trafficking, and I quickly hitched my trailer to his coattails to learn as much from the master as I could. I can go on and on about what John taught me, but when it comes to dealing with victims, John was second to none. Of all the things that John taught me, he had an immortal saying that taught me everything I needed to know about being victim-centered. He said, "Don't be a dick." It's so simple, yet so profound. Truly words to live by. But those words meant a lot to me, and it really taught me to just be a human being when working with victims, to meet them on their level, to make them feel safe, to make them feel seen, and to make them feel heard. And to reassure them that I have their best interests at heart and that I was going to do whatever I could do to help them. So thank you, John and B. I wouldn't have been who I am as an investigator without you. And I'll leave you with this. Being a human trafficking investigator was the most important work I've ever done in my life. I'm glad that I was able to make some sort of impression as evidenced by receiving this award. Victims of human trafficking deserve every effort to help them. My job now is to pay it forward. Fortunately, I'm still involved with doing a lot of training for law enforcement, and I intend to pass on my knowledge to as many officers and investigators as I can so that they then can provide service to victims of human trafficking with empathy, dignity, and respect. And to don't be a dick. Thank you very much for this award. I appreciate it. It truly means the world to me.
Now, our Outstanding Citizen Award recipients are nominated by deputy district attorneys, victim advocates, and investigators who feel that these individuals overcame extraordinary circumstances and have provided such benefit, whether it's to the criminal justice system or testifying or in other ways. So at this time, I'd like to invite up here Principal Criminal Attorney Aaron Miller, who will provide statements to our first recipient, Clarissa Turk.
Oh, we got a full room. I love this. This is great. I don't really have any prepared remarks because nothing can really prepare anyone for what the woman to my right went through on June 1st of 2023. But I will say I've been waiting for this day for a while, and I don't know if Clarissa remembers this, but on the day of the sentencing in the case I'm going to tell you all about, I gave her a hug in the hallway, and I said, I'm going to be calling you at some point. And the reason, I didn't tell her why at that time, that reason is today. I knew I was going to nominate her for what she did and what I'm about to tell you about, and I knew she would receive this award as well. I need to take a step back. First, I know I'm supposed to be brief, but I said I was waiting for this day for a long time, and originally this ceremony was scheduled for, I think, a couple weeks before today, and it got postponed to today, which is May 1st. May 1st is a special day, and I woke up today and I didn't talk to my wife about this. My wife, Lauren, is also a prosecutor for the office. 2 years ago today, I took her to the hospital for a surgery, a major surgery, and I waited for hours and hours to hear from the doctor about how she pulled through. And she's been fighting ever since. I'm wearing pink, a little bit of pink today for her and for Michelle, who I think about all the time as well. But we're not here to talk about that, but I do believe, those of you who know me, especially maybe Brett and Tim up in the corner, hi guys, no, I'm not really a religious person, but I do believe things happen for a reason, and I believe that this ceremony happened today for a reason, not only because of my wife, but because I don't know if the family remembers this. It was exactly 1 year ago today where the jury took about an hour to convict the man who killed Clarissa's father. And May 1st, it's meaningful. It continued today for a reason, and that's one of the reasons. So. My theme is fighting. I know today is about courage, it's about strength and going through things that are difficult. For me, it's about fighting, not in a violent sense, but it's about fighting things that are confronting you, whether it be a health reason, somebody who's doing something wrong to you, it's about fighting back. And that's exactly what Clarissa did on June 1st of 2023, and I'm going to tell you what she did. This family, the family of Mark Moton, was living in a place off Stockton Boulevard, and it was really like any other day for this family. Mark, who's no longer with us because he was murdered that day, is Clarissa's father, also father to Sanaya and Kamari, and husband to Clarissa Moton. Mark was leaving for work out the front door of his residence around 5:45 in the morning that day, and was confronted by a former friend and coworker who somehow had it in his mind that Mark had wronged him in a way I don't even need to talk about because it was completely ridiculous and fabricated. He confronted Mark at Mark's own front door, pointed a handgun at him and said, "I'm going to kill you," and forced him back inside the residence. Clarissa was closest to the front door, heard the commotion and opened it. And the defendant in the case, I'm not even going to say his name because he's not worth mentioning, forced Mark Moton, Clarissa's father, all the way back into the bedroom that he woke up in that morning with his wife, and shot him, started shooting him. The whole family was home. Chaos ensued, obviously, and not only did the defendant begin to shoot the patriarch of the family in front of his family, daughters and wife, he began to physically fight Mark as well, as Mark was shot on his own bed in his own bedroom. At some point, Clarissa made a phone call to 911 that I will never forget. I've been doing this job a long time, and it is one of the most chilling phone calls you're ever going to hear. But it was also very calm, and she was able to relay exactly what was going on. And one of the things that she relayed and said on the 911 call, and I didn't even know this until she was on the witness stand, but she said, "I'm about to pepper spray you." And I thought she was addressing the attacker at that time, and she corrected me on the stand. She said, "I wasn't in the room. I wasn't in the room when I said that. I was talking to myself." I said, "Okay, what do you mean?" And she said, "I left the room where my dad was getting shot and attacked, and I went into a different room to get my pepper spray out of my purse, and I mustered up the courage to go back into that room with that pepper spray." She had the courage and the strength to get that pepper spray and go back into that room and pepper spray that fool who was attacking and shooting her father. And she did it exactly that. You can hear on the 911 call, she's letting him have it. She pepper sprayed him straight in the face. And that pepper spray allowed Clarissa to get the defendant's gun away from him. And she managed to get that gun along with her mom. They got that gun away from the attacker. Clarissa took that gun, and as she's somehow calmly relaying all of this to 911, took it out of the apartment and threw it over a fence to get rid of it and make it safer. And in doing so, she very well may have saved the lives of other members of her family by doing that. So I can't think of a more courageous act. Quite frankly, in the conversations I've had with her, I don't think she would ever consider doing anything different than what she did that day. There's a fight or flight thing that happens. I'm sure we've all heard of that expression, and the woman to my right chose the fight option. I'm super proud of her for that. So, yeah, that's why we're here, to honor her for what she did that day. And I want to thank some other people that were involved with this. We've got Greg Hampton, who's here, who helped the family through the trial and the court process. Thank you for everything you did. Amanal's here, standing with Clarissa. We all know Amanal. She's my ride or die, day or night. And if you work with Amanal, you will be hearing from her at night. Yes. Yeah, I digress. And I want to thank the investigators from my office who worked on this case. That's Roy Keller and Steve McCarthy. They helped with the family, making phone calls. And I really need to take a moment and thank someone who worked on this case with me, side by side, sat with me at the table during the trial, and that's Detective Lindsay Lamb. Where are you? I know you're here. Hi. Detective Lamb was a member of the blue team of the sheriff's office who worked on this case. And not only did she work on it before, she worked on it during and sat with me, and I'd never had a detective sit with me at the table during a jury trial until she did. She sat with me during the defendant's testimony when he took a rope and basically hung himself with his testimony. But Detective Lamb sat with me and also kept working. There were some allegations about Clarissa's dad that were made during this trial that were frankly offensive and incorrect, all the way incorrect. And Detective Lamb went through items of evidence during the trial, was writing supplements on the case, working around the clock to go through a phone, and kept working with me. And I remember even the day of the defendant's testimony, she came back to the office with me, and we kept strategizing, and she was making phone calls to employers to try to verify this information that was being spit out by the defendant during his testimony. She never stopped working, and to me, she epitomizes everything that a police detective should be. So thank you for your hard work. So, in the spirit of fighting, again, not in the sense of fist fighting, but fighting for your life, fighting for your health, fighting against things that are wrong, fighting for your family. You all the way deserve this award. Thank you for being here. So with that, I would like to present Clarissa Turk to DA Tin Ho for this year's Outstanding Citizen Award.
I just want to thank Aaron Miller for nominating me for this award today. And I want to say for all of the victims here receiving an award, don't ever let yourself become a victim. You are a hero in your own way. You're here for a reason, and it is very much being appreciated today. And everyone in this room, if they try hard enough, can be an outstanding citizen. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Aaron's a lot taller than me. I just want to emphasize that. At this time, I'd like to invite Principal Criminal Attorney Terry Ann Grimes, who's the supervisor of our Code Case Science and Technology Unit, to come up here and present the next award. And that's going to be to Briar Seals.
This is the right level for me, so. They were best friends. They had just graduated high school, and they shared absolutely everything with each other. That's the relationship that Briar Seals had with our victim, Soraya Acosta. And some of those details included everything about the relationship that Soraya had with 22-year-old Devion Lewis, the defendant in the case. That relationship in February of 2023 had turned toxic. It was marred with disparaging remarks, text messages that were threatening of violence, and that violence even turned physical when Mr. Lewis slapped Soraya across the face during an argument. At 18 years old, Soraya knew that this was not right. This was not healthy, and this is not what love looked like. And so with the support of her friend, Briar Seals, she ended that relationship in February of 2023, and she texted Briar. She said, "Briar, I did it. I finally ended things with him." And Briar was encouraging. She texted back, "It's going to get difficult. You're going to want him back, but stay strong and remember what he did to you." Soraya had some things of Mr. Lewis's that she wanted to return, and she knew it wouldn't be safe or healthy for her to go alone. So she asked her friend Briar, "Will you come with me? Will you drive me to his house in Elk Grove so that I can return these items?" And of course, Briar said, "Yes, I'm working, but I'll come get you afterwards." And not immediately after her commitment to help her friend, Soraya sent Briar a screenshot of the last text message that Mr. Lewis sent her after the breakup. And it was with another threat. "You're dead. I promise you that." The next day, Briar drove to Soraya's house in Rancho Cordova, and little did both of those young women know that Mr. Lewis had been sitting on the house for nearly 4 hours, lying in wait. He took only one break. He drove to the Big Five nearby, where he purchased a hunting knife and a replica firearm. And so when Briar drove up to her friend Soraya's house, thinking that she was going to drive Soraya over to Mr. Lewis's house, she texts, "I'm here," followed by an immediate text saying, "So is he." When Soraya came out, she brought the things that belonged to Mr. Lewis, and right in front of Briar's car, on the grass in front of Soraya's front door, she handed over to Mr. Lewis his items, and she made it clear, "We cannot be together. I have no hard feelings against you, but this cannot abide." Briar, who was videotaping this interaction, captures the defendant dropping the items, squaring up, and cold cocking Soraya out of nowhere. You see Briar's phone drop to the ground, but you can hear her run to her back seat, open the door, and get a metal bat. She runs over to where Mr. Lewis is continually punching Soraya in the face, and she wails on him, trying to get him off of her. And there is a moment where you think it's going to end. But instead of stopping, he pulls the hunting knife he had just purchased a couple hours before, and he stabs Soraya over and over again, 47 times. When he turns on Briar, she runs and does exactly what she's supposed to do. She gets in her car and she locks it for her safety until the defendant speeds off down the road. As soon as he leaves the scene, she runs over and she grabs cloth and she applies pressure to the multitude of wounds that is on her best friend's body. And while she's trying to give life-saving measures, she hears the revving of an engine return because the defendant had made a U-turn. And he had come back and he drove up on the curb. He drove up on the grass where Soraya's body laid, and Briar had to jump out of the way to avoid being hit. He drives over her body and drags it into the road before he throws out the knife that he used to kill her. Soraya's courage didn't end there. She gets into her car and does what she's supposed to do to get to a place of safety because who knows if Mr. Lewis is coming back again. And while she's driving to that place of safety, she calls 911 And she reports everything that just happened, and she gives law enforcement from the Sacramento Sheriff's Office the very important information that they need to be able to apprehend the defendant. She gives him his Instagram account, his phone number, a description of the car. And so law enforcement is able to go on the defendant's Instagram account, and he is posting, saying that he has made a horrible decision, he's sorry to Soraya, and he wants to end his own life. Law enforcement officers from the Sacramento Sheriff's Office are actually able to make contact with the defendant, and they do an amazing job telling him, it's not over, you have something to live for, don't harm yourself. But in those conversations, he tells law enforcement that he has a weapon, a gun. He does not say it is replica, but a real gun that he will use to end his life. And so with the information that Breyer gave to law enforcement, Sheriff's Office is able to put out a BOLO for the car and the description of the defendant. And Fairfield Police Department spot him several hours later in a parking lot. And when they approach, the defendant speeds off and a high-speed chase ensues from Fairfield all the way back to Elk Grove with speeds reaching over 130 miles per hour. It is so unsafe that CHP can't travel close behind, so helicopters from both CHP and the Sheriff's Office track the defendant's movements until he gets off in Elk Grove, where Elk Grove Police Department now pursue the defendant in rush hour traffic while he's weaving in and out of traffic. Law enforcement from Elk Grove is able to do a pit maneuver, and they're able to get the defendant pinned into another car. The defendant grabs his replica gun that law enforcement believes is real, and he points it at officers ready to shoot. And Elk Grove police engage in fire, but they do not kill the defendant. They are able to apprehend him, and he is arrested. And all of that was because of the work and the courage of Breyer. But her courage didn't end there. On the day of the trial, she testified for nearly a day. Not because of direct examination, although some of you might think that, but because of cross-examination, where the defense attorney laid into her about how it was her fault that this relationship ended, how it was her fault that she, poisoned Soraya against Mr. Lewis, and Mr. Lewis was not a bad guy. But she stood her ground. She minced no words. She was courageous till the end, and her courage was so palpable in that courtroom that the next morning the defendant came in, and against the advice of counsel, he pled open to the sheet, which means he took responsibility for every single charge against him, including first-degree murder, and he was sentenced to the maximum. Breyer Seal's courage continues. She's currently studying to be a nurse, and she will graduate next year. And I am so thankful that she is part of our community, and I have no doubt that her outstanding citizenry will continue in the years to come. So Tin Ho, I present to you Breyer Seals for this year's Outstanding Citizen Award.
I do want to take a moment to recognize Zoraya's family. Thank you for being here. I know it's really hard having lost someone like that in that situation, so thank you for being here. At this time, I'd also like to invite up here Deputy District Attorney Dinah Milkey, who will be presenting the next Outstanding Citizen Award. And this one will go to Montequila. Montequila Robinson.
Good morning, everyone. I nominated Montequila Robinson in great part because in the child abuse unit, she's a bit of a hero for us. She did something that we wish every parent, every mother would do, and protected her child in the best way that she could given the situation she was in. In April of 2022, Montequila Robinson was confronted with a truth beyond any mother's greatest fear. A man she had cared for, trusted, and allowed into the home, let his mask fall and revealed the monster that he was. A monster who was bigger than her, stronger than her, and as manipulative as they come. So much so that he had the arrogance to think that he could convince her to believe his words over what she saw with her own eyes. Miss Robinson walked in on a nightmare, interrupted it, and trusted her gut, listened to her daughter, and believed her eyes. Instead of falling for his manipulation, Miss Robinson stood her ground, not backing down. She armed herself with a kitchen knife and did what was necessary to protect her then 11-year-old daughter. When the abuser taunted her, saying, and it was captured on audio recording, "If you really think I did something, go ahead and stab me," she didn't back down to that taunt and did what was necessary to protect her family. Despite being the one holding the knife while the abuser was covered in blood, Ms. Robinson put her child's safety over any concerns for herself, fears about possibly being misunderstood, being manipulated by this abuser, ending up in cuffs herself. They did the right thing and they called 911. The abuser was taken into custody. Ms. Robinson protected her child, cooperating fully with the police and testifying at trial. This case was supported through the trial by victim advocate Tatiana Morphus and investigated by the Sacramento Sheriff's Office, with a special thanks to Sergeant Melanie Marino, who not only was the lead detective, but also stepped into her role as a child abuse expert, testifying as an expert about child abuse in this case, and I believe it was the first time with this trial. To those of you who maybe have never worked in the child abuse unit or are fortunate enough to never have had child abuse touch your life, you may think that what Ms. Robinson did is the norm and what any mother would do in this situation. But in reality, to those of us who have done this work, we know that more often than not, children are not supported, are not believed, and worse, are believed, but the parent chooses to stay with the abuser. I am grateful to Ms. Robinson for being a reminder to us that the strength and power of a mother's love, that the reason why the phrase "over my dead body" exists. 10, I present to you Ms. Montequila Robinson for this year's Outstanding Citizen.
Thank you for your courage. Would you like to say a few words in a moment? Well, can you take a picture? Let's take a picture of all of them. Let's come up. We're gonna come over. You want to say a few words?
I think that all parents should protect their children, pay attention to your children, encourage your children to have the strength if they're being abused by someone. They may not always tell us. It's a hard subject for children to talk about. I always talk to my child, all of my children, and encourage them to go to school if they're school age, grab a friend, go to the office, tell someone, but you also have to pay attention to your child and have that open communication with your child so they're not afraid to come forward and talk to you. But child abuse is a very hard subject for kids to come forward and talk about. So I'm thankful and I'm grateful that I caught it. I would talk to my child and ask my child because a mother's intuition, I felt in my heart that someone was violating my child. And I just followed my intuitions, and by the grace of God, I walked in on it and I caught it. And I'm thankful and I'm grateful for the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department, Sac County District Attorney's Office for their kindness, their caring, and compassion towards our situation. And it really made a big difference. But we have to talk to our kids and encourage our kids. They don't tell us everything. They go through things that we're not aware of. And they need support and they need someone that they can trust and protect them. And just encourage your children to talk about things because we don't know what they go through. I didn't know what mine was going through, but I found out and I had a feeling. I just didn't know who, when, or where. And God, I prayed a lot for God to guide me in the right direction and to show me what was wrong because I knew that something was so very wrong in my home and my child was being violated and abused. And a home for a child should be a safe haven for a child. That should be their safe place. So, thank you very much to everybody.
We're coming to the end here with a final closing tribute. You know, every year there's a theme that emerges. I think this year the theme revolves around three different words. One is fighting. I think Aaron talked about that. I've been accused of liking to fight too much. But I think that's what we do as prosecutors, right? We fight for people, for the voiceless, for the vulnerable, for victims. But I think that the other two themes that come up, two words this year, is resiliency and hope. And the final tribute we're going to have today is for Michelle Husband. You know, Michelle was somebody that's very special to us. She was a victim advocate in our office for many, many years. And, you know, I remember her being a victim advocate on many of the homicide cases. She was the advocate of my first and last homicide case. And Michelle had this beaming, beautiful smile, but at the same time, she was always going to keep it real. She was always going to tell you what was on her mind. And I could remember sometimes coming back and she says, "You're crazy." And she had this, and then she would flash that beautiful smile. Today we have here several of her family members. Nicola, her niece, and I got to tell you that when you see Nicola in a moment, when I saw her, I swear I was seeing Michelle. Same smile, same face, same voice. It was as if I for a moment saw Michelle again. Her sister Sonia is here as well. Her sister Shelley, and her son Malachi. I saw Michelle right before Christmas. She had been in the office, and it was just a brief moment in that hallway that leads out, you know, into the back parking lot. And I saw her, and I came back in, and we hugged for a moment. She was so excited about Christmas. Michelle is a very spiritual person, but she was getting ready to go back to the islands. And we talked about how she was doing, how she was feeling, and she was hopeful. And then when we heard of her passing, it was so sudden and so shocking. And what I will say is, you know, before I invite Darby up here to to say a few words as well in a beautiful tribute. You know, somebody gave me these words recently, hoping to provide some comfort, and I may mess up what was told to me, but the words were, it's a loss that can never be replaced. It's a sea whose distance cannot be breached. It is a light that you will never see in another's face. But child, still your tears. For remember, the universe willed a world, and it suddenly appeared. So with that, I'd like to invite Darby.
Good morning. I cannot do this alone. I need all of my advocates and the entire victim witness team to please join me. And those of you who are former advocates or part of our family, please join us up here as well if you'd like. Thank you. I'll also be passing Arlo off to Tatiana. Okay. Thank you, team. Thank you all for being here today. A special thank you and welcome to Michelle's family. It's very nice to see you all again. I don't want to repeat everything that DA Ho said today. I just want to thank you for sharing in our celebration of Michelle's life. And we were here in these chambers on Tuesday of this week with the Board of Supervisors who presented a proclamation really outlining who Michelle was as a person and also her dedicated career here in Sacramento County. So with that, I would like to step aside and allow Eleni Ramirez-Rodriguez, one of our advocates, to please read the proclamation so you all learn a little bit more about Michelle.
Resolution of the Board of Supervisors, County of Sacramento, State of California, commemorating the life of Michelle Renee Husbands. Michelle Renee Husbands earned her bachelor's degree in social work from Oakwood College in Huntsville, Alabama in 1999, and a Master of Social Work degree in 2002 from California State University, Sacramento. She served for several years with the Sacramento County Department of Child, Family, and Adult Services, investigating cases involving some of the most vulnerable children in our community and providing honest, authentic, and non-judgmental support to families in need. Michelle joined the Victim Witness Assistance Program with the Sacramento County District Attorney's Office in 2007, where she advocated for victims of crime with compassion, strength, and a no-nonsense yet gentle approach. She drew on her professional experience to support ethnic minority homicide survivors, helping guide them through the criminal justice system while approaching each person with dignity, kindness, and respect. Michelle recognized the need of a crisis response team within the Sacramento County District Attorney's Office to strengthen collaborating among agencies and providing support, comfort, and healing in the aftermath of devastating mass incidents. Michelle led those efforts as the designated mass victimization advocate, and in recognition of her leadership and lasting impact, the annual preparation drills and exercises will be known as the Husbands Family Assistance Center drill. She shared social work ethics and practiced career expertise with undergraduate social work students, helped guide the next generation of professionals, challenged attorneys and others when necessary to protect victims' rights, and advocated fiercely for those she served. Michelle co-facilitated a monthly support group for homicide survivors in a way that helped participants feel heard, understood, and safe, while also bringing humanity and connection through small but memorable acts of care. She was nominated for and recognized as a 2018 Beacon of Hope Award recipient for her efforts to strengthen victims' advocacy and public safety through her compassion and dedication. Michelle turned co-workers into friends and made those around her feel supported, valued, and cared for, earning the affection and reputation of Mama Hen and the unit's self-proclaimed joy giver. Michelle Renee Husbands passed away unexpectedly while serving her community as a valued member of the Victim Witness Assistance Program and as a dedicated Sacramento County employee. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors, County of Sacramento, State of California, hereby expresses its sincere gratitude and appreciation for the life of Michelle Renee Husbands and her dedication to improve the lives of underserved Sacramento County residents, and further commends her exceptional contributions to the betterment of the quality of life for people of all ages and backgrounds through Sacramento County.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome the family. Just one moment. I'm going to present that as well.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of our family, we extend our heartfelt thanks for this recognition of our beloved Michelle. Though she's no longer with us, her kindness, her strength, and her impact continue to live on in us. This honor means so much more than words can express, and we are deeply grateful that her life and her legacy are being remembered and celebrated in this way. Thank you so much to everyone in this room for keeping her memory alive.
Just one final word. Each year, our Victim Witness Program presents an award, as we talked about, the Outstanding Victim Service Award. It's typically presented to an attorney or maybe a criminal investigator whom we feel has gone over and beyond in their work with victims. The award recipient demonstrates empathy, respect, and thoughtfulness as they help victims maneuver through a very complicated judicial system. This year, the Sacramento County District Attorney's Office Victim Witness Program recognizes victim advocate Michelle Husbands. This award is presented in her memory in recognition of a lifetime of service, unwavering commitment, and lasting contributions to crime victims and their families that will never be forgotten.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, team. Okay, we can all gather for a photo. Team, come back, come back. You can bring Arlo around. Oh, wait, come on down. Thank you.
Before I end, I'd also like to recognize and thank the Office of Senator Roger Neal for also honoring our award recipients with a certificate. There's a representative from his office here as well, and we'll ask her to come up at the end to take a photograph with all the recipients, but thank you. Finally, I mentioned the themes about fighting, about resiliency, and about hope. And so I want to thank all the award recipients for your courage, your fighting spirit, your resiliency, and the hope that we move forward with. And that's what it's about. It's about hope. It's about making sure that the memories of those that we love go on, and that's what we do here today and every day. And so thank you so much for coming to the 27th Annual Outstanding Citizen Award ceremony. Thank you so much, and I would invite all the recipients to come up here and take a final picture at the end. Thank you so much.